go marching in. Oh, when the Blues go marching in. Oh, I want to be in that number. When the Blues go marching in. Oh, when the Blues go marching in. Oh, when the Blues go marching in. Oh, I want to be in that number. When the Blues go marching in. Oh, when the Blues go marching in. Oh, when the Blues go marching in. Oh, I want to be in that number. When the Blues go marching in. Oh, when the Blues
Do you bleed blue?
go
If
marching
you do, this is the show for you. The BlueNote Fan Report, hosted by
the Hawaii Blues fan. Welcome to the BlueNote Fan Report. I'm Guy, the Hawaii Blues fan, and you gotta know I'm bleeding blue with you. It's playoff time. Yeah, I got mine. Have you got yours? Are you waving it? Man, I could not think of a better person to talk about the playoffs than Mr. Tom Calhoun. But before we do, you got to know the contest is still running. Didn't get enough entries, so I'm going to extend it to the end of the playoffs. You got to get the questions in. I'm going to play the video right here. You email them the answers to the Hawaii Blues fan at hawaii.rr.com. So here are the questions. Question 1, why are the Blues called the Blues? Question 2, who scored the first goal in Blues history regular season? Question 3, who was the first Blue in a Blues uniform to win a postseason award? Hart Trophy, Vezina, Selke, whatever, a postseason award. Question 4, who was the first Blues draft pick to enter the Hall of Fame as a Blue? Question 5, what year did the Blues select the least number of picks? And a bonus to that is why. Question 6, the Blues have played in 2 arenas with 6 different names. Give me 4 of them. Question 7, what team drafted Brett Hull and in what round? And then I added a bonus to this. What was his overall pick selection? Question 8. What was the first season the Blues missed the playoffs? And what was the last? This was submitted by Ryan Learman from Twitter. Thanks, Ryan. It was a great question. Question 9. Who holds the Blues record for most penalty minutes? This is career, not season, career. Question 10. Gotten a lot of comments about this question. Question 10. Which Blues goalie has the most points for the Blues? This is assists and goals, not wins. Most points for the Blues. Career. Question 11. What current Blue, meaning they are on the team right now, dressing every day, was not drafted? Question 12. Since 2000, the Blues have had 6 captains. I got this one wrong. Name 4 of them. Miscounted. Question 13. The names in the rafters, including honored names. I'll give you a hint. Wikipedia lists all of them, because there are people that are not in St. Louis and don't get to go to the arena and may have never been there. This is the way to find out. Question 14. Who scored 2 goals during the Winter Classic and took a selfie? Question 15. Name 5, a minimum of 5 current Blues. That's all I want, 5. You can name more, but 5 current Blues that have played at least 5 seasons with the Blues. It can be split up. It doesn't have to be concurrent. And now we get to the Hawaii Blues Fan Report. Question 16. What was the date of the first Hawaii Blues fans video, and who was the Blues opponent? Question 17. What was the first pet of the game? And the hint here is he was on TV. Question 18. Who was the first interview on the BlueNote Fan Report? I've thought a little bit about this question, and the way I asked it is not very good. So list any interviewee and I will accept it. Has to be someone I interviewed. Question 19. Where did Wayne Gretzky want to take Tom Calhoun and Tom respectfully declined? Watch the Tom Calhoun episode. And question 20. What was the first ever live show about? I did a live show. I came on impromptu live. It was here. I'll say that much. It was posted in YouTube, not alive in the groups. It was posted in YouTube. Bonus question 1. How many subscribers does the Hawaii Blues fan have? You go to my page, you go to my channel, it'll tell you. I know that number will change, but I'll know you went and looked at that number. You get a free entry for this question. Bonus question 2, you also get a free entry. Who's your favorite player on this year's team? I want to say good luck to everybody, and a special thank you to John Hefner, not Hafner, Hefner. And this is in memory of his father, Big Jim. I can't thank you both enough. Good luck to everyone. Aloha. I hope you get your submission ins right now. I have 3. Need 50, 47 more. So don't wait. Don't wait. Get them in as soon as you can. I would love to, and I've added a prize. The first one picked is going to get a Hawaiian care package. That'll consist of some Hawaiian coffee, some pancake mixes, macadamia nuts, and maybe a surprise or 2. Be worth, I usually spend about $50 for it, so I can't wait to send it to you. I say, let's talk Blues hockey with Mr. Tom Calhoun. Aloha, Blues fans. I got to tell you, today I am super excited. I didn't think I was big enough or important enough for this man to come back on my show, but he has most graciously decided to come back on, and I welcome probably one of the very few men who have seen the most playoff hockey games in St. Louis, Tom Calhoun. Tom, welcome back to the BlueNote Fan Report.
Guy, my pleasure to be with you. I hope all is well out in the islands.
All is great, my friend. So I asked you to come back on because this is playoff hockey, and the playoffs are a different feel altogether. But in hockey, it seems like each round is like a new season, a new opening day. So I'm wondering, do you do something different to prepare for each round of the playoffs or for the opening round?
Actually, my job is pretty much the same, whether it's a playoff game or a regular season game. I don't do anything preparation-wise differently. The one thing that's different as far as my announcements go in the playoffs is that, of course, statistics from the regular season all go away. So you have to, when you announce a goal, his first in the playoffs, his third in the playoffs, that sort of thing. And that's pretty much provided for me on the stat sheet and the lineup sheet that I get before the game. So it's easy to remember that because everybody goes back to 0 on their statistics at the start of the playoffs. But in answer to your original question, my job essentially remains exactly the same as it does during the playoffs, except there's a lot more energy in the building. There's a lot more fan electricity in the building, and that kind of amps up not only the players, but I think it amps up everybody who works in the building, such as myself and the TV people, the off-ice officials, the coaches, the players. Everybody gets their level of performance gets raised up a few degrees, and so there's a lot more attention paid to everything you do, and you have to be mindful of that when you go to the rink and get ready to do your job.
So I know for regular games, I mean, you've probably gotten your script down, but for the playoffs, does your script change, or do you even go off a script, or do they kind of tell you, do you have something that you need to read before you say it, or do you just get to write your own stuff, or how does that go?
No, I'm provided a script by usually Jason Pippy, who is our game night entertainment director. He coordinates all of the information that is needed to get out during the course of a game and puts it into a script form. He also provides everybody who works on the game night presentation with a rundown sheet that details when each announcement, when each video segment, when each TV timeout, that is all detailed in minute detail for everybody who works on the show. We get that, and I get my script separately that indicates all of the announcements that I'm expected to make during the course of the game. So everything is amazingly planned out. It may not always seem like it, and probably that's a good thing as far as the enjoyment level for most of the people at the game. But everything is coordinated through Jason, the salespeople in the front office, the vice president of game night presentation, who oversees game night presentation, Steve Chapman, and a lot of the other people involved, the communications people like Mike Caruso. They all have some say in what is the presentation of each game, but Jason is the guy who makes everything happen, and he gets us the script that we work from. And I know that's a long answer to your original question, but yes, everything is pretty well planned out, and I am provided a script that normally I read almost word for word during the course of a game. Of course, the goal announcements and the penalties and so forth, that's all on me to make those announcements at the appropriate time. But everything else that folks here at the building is all planned out ahead of time.
Well, being that you've been announcing games, and we talked about this before, since January of 1987, and that's an amazing record. You've seen so much playoff hockey. And I know you're around the locker room a little bit. When you're with some of the teams that you've seen, I know you've seen the great teams of the 90s where everybody thought that was 2 or 3 cups right there.
Yeah.
How does this team's preparation or this team's energy relate or compare to those teams?
Well, if you go back to the 99-01 team, I think, on the President's Cup, everybody thought that team was the one that was going to get St. Louis its first cup. Well, it didn't turn out that way. You know, we had some injury issues, as I recall, and they ran into a buzzsaw in the first round of the playoffs, and that's always a possibility in the playoffs that you might run into a hot team, and hey, that's the way it goes. This team, to me, and I hate to get too excited before the playoffs even start, but this team to me has a lot of the elements that a lot of our other teams did not have. And when I say that, I mean that the depth is a lot stronger on this team than most of those other teams that we went into the playoffs with high hopes for. This team has people playing on the fourth line, Barbashev and Steen, and so it's different people on different games, but lately it's been Sanford on that fourth line. And these guys, to me, have much higher level of expectation and better opportunity to be significant players in the game than some of these other guys that have played on third and fourth line for the Blues in the past. And that's why this team, to me, has a lot more potential for going deep into the playoffs. I think Craig Berube, our coach now, has figured out how the line combinations work the best. You know, our first and second line, they're always dangerous. Even the third line now is contributing in a big way on most games. if not offensively, taking care of business defensively. I just think there's a lot more talent up and down the lineup here, and certainly on defense than we've ever had before.
Yeah,
and so that's, to me, why I'm so excited.
Yeah, I was watching the NHL Network's their playoff preview, and they were previewing the Jets and the Blues, and the network never gives the Blues much credit at all. And they didn't talk about, well, the Blues are doing one thing that nobody else in the Western Conference is doing right now. They're rolling 4 lines. I mean, our fourth line guys are playing 15 to 20 minutes a game.
Right.
That's second and third line minutes. So if you're rolling 4 lines, I mean, that's strength that can take out Lion. I can't spit his name out. Take him out or keep him off the score sheet.
Yeah, and like I said, I think that depth is what, to me, you don't like to anticipate injuries, but during the playoffs, you're likely, I guess, to have 1 or 2 along the way, and I think that depth is going to be a big factor there. You've got guys who aren't even playing right now that can step in and really contribute. So I think the depth that Doug Armstrong has built up has, to me anyway, given the Blues a really good chance to go deep in the playoffs. You never can anticipate some things, but I think that depth, to me, is what I'm looking at as the real key factor this year.
Well, before we go a little bit more into this year's playoffs, I want to go back into your memory bank. Your favorite...
Sometimes it's not so good, guys. So
I know better than that. Your favorite playoff memory. I know you probably got one that just leaps out at you, and I think everyone would love to hear that.
Well, I think there were some from early on that have faded a little bit, from early on in my career that have faded a little bit. But I think even taking that into account, I think that moment a few years ago when Troy Brouwer scored that late goal and they knocked the Blackhawks out of the playoffs a few seasons ago, that was really a terrific moment for Blues fans because of all the anticipation, all the expectation, all of the difficult times we've had over the years as Blues fans. That was just like a big sigh of relief, I think, for most Blues fans when we won that game and that series and went on to the Western Conference Finals that year. That was a big memory for me. I can remember jumping a couple of feet out of my chair when Brouwer scored that goal and had a lot of fun announcing that one.
Well, I'm so glad you just said that because that brings up something. I've talked to a few people, a few of my fans and a few friends, and one of the things that I wanted to know about you is when you're announcing games, I was watching the last day of the season, so it's going to kind of be a long question. I was watching the last day of the season, and I was scoreboard watching, and I was watching another team's announcer, and as soon as their team scored a goal, this guy screamed the announcement. And I've never heard you do that. When you announce, it feels like you're talking to 18,000 friends. How do you control your emotions when you do that?
Well, sometimes it's not so easy. I think I get excited just along with all the other people in the building on a lot of goals, and I hopefully that excitement comes through a little bit. But, I know what you're saying. What I try to do, the mental approach I have to my job is that I have an official side of the job to do, and I have a fan's side of the job to do.
Yes.
There are certain announcements that I'm supposed to make, and the league expects you to do things a certain way. But I'm also communicating information to 18,000 people in that building who are Blues fans, and I want the excitement of that moment to come through to them as well. But I don't want that announcement to be about me and how I sound. Some guys who do this job, I think, want to make sure that their voice is a certain way and that their voice is the most important thing. Well, that's not how I view this job. To me, I want the emotion of that moment to come through in that announcement to get the maximum excitement out of the fans who are in the building, to give them the announcement in a way that they can really be excited about it and have a real great memory to take home with them when they leave the building. So it's not about me and how I sound. It's about me and communicating that moment of excitement to the fans who are in the building. And that's, to me, the way that job should be done.
Well, let me tell you this, and I think this will put a smile on your face today. I have had more than a couple of people that have seen your first interview, and they have told, and one of them's in Louisiana, a couple of them are in St. Louis. They have told me when they hear you announce the goals on TV now, because they cover that up, but when they hear it, they're listening for it, and they go, "That's Tom Calhoun. I know him." They think they're your friend. I mean, I know that's weird that that people who you've never met, but that's what you do. You've drawn them in to where you're there, Tom Calhoun.
Well, that means a lot to me, Guy, truthfully, because if I'm doing my job to the way that people appreciate it, and if they consider me a friend, then I think I'm doing something right. And, I just came from a meeting I had with some of my high school classmates earlier this morning, and one of my friends, Mick Heffinger, said to me, he said, we were down in Florida when the Blues played Tampa Bay a few weeks back and had that great victory at home against the Lightning. And we were in a bar down in Tampa, and he said, I was telling my friends, hey, I know that guy. I went to high school with that announcer. And some of his other friends from this area were there with him, and they all said, yeah, well, he's a friend of all of ours. And a couple of folks from the Tampa area said, well, he's really good at what he does. And you hear things like that, and it makes it all worthwhile, all the years that I've been doing this, and maybe had to miss a kid's play at school, or maybe had a nephew's wedding that I had to miss or something like that, and I did do that once. But that kind of makes whatever little sacrifices I've made along the way so valuable to me to hear things like that.
Well, just so you know, and I don't get a lot of views, but the 240 views that you got were my second most that I've ever had. So
that's great. Who was the other one? Maybe Wayne Gretzky?
Actually, no. You'll know this one. It was Layla.
Oh, Layla.
Right? Now, when I first found out about Layla, I did a special episode, and I was trying to help her get her match. And I had told people if I could get this video to 1,000 watt views, I would do a twerk, in a hula skirt. Well, she got her match. I did a twerk anyways, not in a hula skirt. But so that one had gotten 330 views. Yours had gotten 230 views. Slightly behind you.
We got to a couple of thousand with this one today.
Well, hey, you know what? I hope so. Moving along. So I was thinking about this, and I've heard you call a lot of goals, and I've heard, I've been in playoffs, I've been in the regular season, and I thought to myself, well, how would I call a Wayne Gretzky's first goal in a Blues uniform? And I'm going to myself, Blues goal! His first in the Blue Note, number 90, and I lose it right there. How, when you have an emotional moment like that, when there's a guy that scores a goal that just, not a goal scorer, or there's an emotional moment to a goal scorer, how do you go through that? I think you understand what I'm trying to get at there?
Yeah, I know. Well, I think, I guess the best answer I can give you on that one is, when you have a job to do and you expect to do the job right yourself, you have to get your mind in a different place. I liken it to a professional athlete. If he gets caught up in the emotions of throwing a pitch in a baseball game or taking a shot in a shootout in a hockey game, or making a free throw in a basketball game, whatever it is, if he gets caught up in the emotion of that, then there's a really good chance that he's not going to be able to perform. I think when you have a job to do and you focus on what it is you need to do to make that job right for the people you work for and the people who are going to appreciate the job. You just have to somehow get your mind in a different place so that that function that you're expected to perform is done properly. I can tell you, over the years, the worst announcements, or the ones that I dreaded, I guess, the most, were the very emotional reads that I had to do for like moments of silence prior to the anthem, where you're expected to, you're the only noise that's being heard in the building. Yeah. Everybody else is quiet. It's right before the anthem, and 100% of everybody's focus is on your announcement. And when I had to announce, for instance, that a moment of silence for Barclay Plager back in the day, or other really emotionally charged things like that, I had to separate myself from the emotion of that moment and totally focus on the script in front of me. And I actually, in those instances, try to think of something that made me laugh in the past. Because if I get my mind in a place where I'm thinking about how sad this moment is, or how difficult it is to get through something like that, I'm not going to be any good. So you have to, again, separate your emotion from the actual job that you have to do and focus on the job. And somehow, after you take a deep breath or two, you get through it. And I've done it now for so long that I'm able to do that on a regular basis. And I think, hopefully, the blues people trust me in all those situations.
Yeah, as you were saying that, I could think of probably the first moment of silence that you really had to do might have been the Wickenheimer one.
Doug Wickenheiser, yeah, well, I think there might have been one or two before him. I think the Barclay Plager one would have been before that. But
I know they were close. They were close
yeah.
together, if I remember right.
Because I remember Doug Wickenheiser being on hand at one of the high school championship games back when the new building, now Enterprise Center, then Kiel Center, was first open.
Oh, okay.
And I know the Barclay Plager announcement happened at the old arena.
Old arena, yeah.
So,
no, for some reason I was thinking...
There's been some of those. But, the excitement level, I don't mind getting a little out of control on an exciting goal announcement. Sometimes that's the best thing that can happen in those situations. If I get a little bit carried away, I think the Blues management doesn't mind that so much. But, moments of silence and for instance, we announced Charles Glenn having his last anthem the other night, and that was emotional for me too, because Charles has been around us for so long and he's been such a great part of our presentation. I just wanted that to be perfect for Charles' sake.
Yeah.
And those kind of things are the more difficult ones than the exciting ones.
Yeah, I can see that. And while you're saying that, I would love to have Charles Glenn for 15 minutes or 20 minutes. That would be a thrill to me.
He's a wonderful person. He'd be happy to do that for you, Guy.
Maybe if I can get in contact with him. So we'll move on here for a little bit. Don't make this about me. Make this about you. The playoffs are coming. And for the playoffs, you've seen so much playoff hockey. What do you see being the key to this series?
Well, I think the key has always been, to me, is to keep your top players healthy. Mm-hmm. And if we can do that, if we can get through 2 or 3 rounds of the playoffs without having a significant injury along the way, I think this team's going to be in really good shape. It becomes, as you know, a lot tougher to do that once playoffs start, because the level of play goes up. Everything's a lot faster. All the checks are a lot harder. It's tough work for these guys. So if we can be healthy along the way, I really think that the line combinations have been working. Vladimir Tarasenko, as you know, was first star of the week last week. or was it the month? I think it was the week.
Yeah, the week.
But he was, he's playing really well. Everybody, and I really think Ryan O'Reilly, who had a wonderful first half of the season, and he's maybe not been quite the dynamic player that he was in the first half of the season here the last month or so, but he's still great, and I really think he's going to take it up another notch here in the playoffs, and to me, it's all about staying healthy. I've seen so many situations over the years where, Grant Fuhr gets hurt and he goes out, and, you have a tough time putting a winning lineup out on the ice, and as long as we're healthy, I think they're going to be fine.
Yeah, the one thing that comes to mind for me, and actually it's a Cardinals moment, is the Vince Coleman moment.
Yeah.
The 85 World Series, the man-eating tart.
That
Yeah. Right. So for me, I think this series is going to come down to goaltending, and I got to be honest, I have not been on the Bennington train. I see a lot of glaring, and I guess deformities in his game. I think his glove is really weak, and teams are starting to hone in on that. But where you sit, you get to see it up close. Am I missing something? With him? Is he really as good as everyone thinks he is?
Well, if you're seeing weaknesses in his game, I don't know what you're looking at, truthfully, because I haven't seen him. His glove, he keeps his glove in a position that a lot of goaltenders don't do. He's got it in a catching position almost all the time when the other team comes into the offensive zone, and a lot of times I think the other team player is shooting the puck right into his glove without him having to move it. And side-to-side movement, I mean, he seems to have it all covered. I'm just not 100% sure, I guess, because of the fact that he hasn't played playoff hockey before. But beyond that, I think technically speaking, I can't imagine anybody playing the game a whole lot better than what he's been playing it. Obviously, everybody's going to be scored on from time to time, and you can't prevent that. But I think the numbers that he's got over the course of, 3 months, kind of speak for themselves. Not everybody's either figured him out or he's got something going that other guys haven't, because the numbers don't lie. He's been really, really good. And you just got to hope that playoff pressure and playoff over-exuberance, I guess, doesn't catch up with him a little bit.
Well, but see, that's the other thing. I think Allen's been playing pretty well, too. So if you did have to spell him for a game or two with Allen, I don't think that it would be in what a lot of Blues fans call the instant loss. I think Allen...
Jake's been on the road, his troubles have come at the home rink for whatever reason. Yeah. And if you had to play Jake once or twice on the road during a series, so be it. You're not in the worst shape in the world there either. But, I think pretty sure they're going to ride Bennington until they don't think they can ride him anymore.
Yeah, I'm with you. So, in the playoffs, you've seen, like you said, everything ramps up. The fanhood ramps up. Like these guys come out.
Yeah,
yes, right. I have a few, and yes, I know how to wave them.
Yeah, I got a few of those down at the bar.
By the way, I've been asked about your man cave if you're ever going to let me show it. So a couple people have asked me that.
Well, as long as you give me a heads up and I can get some dust off of a few things, I'll go. Yeah, we can do that.
We can work on that later. So with all of that, when the fans are waving those flags and all that's flapping around, do you ever go to yourself, God, how did I end up in this spot?
Well, I do that anyway. But, but yeah, that's, when you can be part of a show like that, and some of the announcements you make cause 18,000 people to cheer wildly and get excited, that's a pretty sexy thing. I'm really fortunate to have had my career take that turn where somebody asked me to be the Blues PA announcer. I think I told you in the first interview we did that I really didn't aspire to that at any point up to the point where I was asked to do it. And kind of got into it almost by accident, but I'm certainly thankful to the man upstairs and whoever else had anything to do with it, that my career has gone that direction, because being a PA announcer of a major sport, not many people get to do that, and it's pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah. Well, when you think about it, I'll call it a happy accident.
Yeah, it definitely was that.
Well, with this lineup, and you've mentioned a few of them, Tereshchenko, O'Reilly, and all the hockey you've seen this year, I have my predictions for awards, not who's going to win them, but who should be nominated. Who on this year's team do you think should be nominated for awards?
Well, I think O'Reilly should be nominated for the Selke. I think there's been some talk about that. Obviously, Bouwmeester is now nominated for the Masterson trophy, and certainly his comeback during the course of the season warrants any kind of consideration he might get for that. He's turned from a player that a lot of people couldn't wait to get out of town to a guy who's now signed for another year, and I think everybody's pretty happy about that. And obviously, Bennington should be nominated in the consideration, at least for the Calder Trophy. I don't know. Other than that, I don't know. You might come up with an idea or two on your own. But that's
I had Bennington. I had Bennington for the Calder, at least being in the top three. O'Reilly for the Selke in the top three. I feel he should be also in the running for the Hart. The reason for that is if you take him off this team, especially early, this team's not in the playoffs. He was the heart and soul even when we were losing. He never went away. And even some of his plays dropped off. It's dropped off because other people have picked it up. To me, so, and I know he won't get there, and I know it's kind of out. I thought Berube for the Jack Adams, that he should be in the top three for that. And then my dark horse, and the one that I get a lot of flack for, is I think Armstrong should be up for GM of the year. Right?
Why do you get a lot of flack for that? I think, just because they had a slow start doesn't mean that he didn't put together a good team, and he certainly did that. When you look back at the trade with Buffalo for O'Reilly, I mean, almost looks like highway robbery when you think about it now.
Yeah.
And, Army's had a few of those over the years.
The Shen trade?
That have contributed to building this team, so I don't know why anybody would argue with you on that one.
There's a lot of Blues fans, especially guys that do the things that I do, this for podcasting, that are not Armstrong fans. But I think he should be the GM of the year for not what he did, but what he didn't do. Right? And I think I talked to you. I think I mentioned the architect and the contractor before, and I may not have mentioned that with you, but I've used that analogy before, that you had an architect and a contractor that were never on the same page. Armstrong and Yoke. They just did, for some reason, they weren't on the same page. And I thought for a while Berube wasn't, but maybe in his style of play, maybe in his style, the only negative I see with him is the blown 2-goal leads. It's happened too much, and it's continued to happen. And for me, if it happens once or twice, it's on the players. If it's a continuation, it's on the coach, because the coach hasn't fixed it.
Yeah.
But still,
well, I think when it comes to goalies, I really think that's almost a matter of luck when it comes to trying to sign the right goalie and keep him as your number one goalie. Look how many goalies have come and gone for all the organizations in the National Hockey League, and when you finally get one that you can rely on and you want to sign him to a long-term deal, that becomes pretty dangerous, because one good season a lot of times doesn't mean that you're going to have season 2 or season 3 of the same kind. So when you hold signing the right goalie to, when you hold a GM to a higher standard than what other people have in their organization, then I don't know that that's fair.
Yeah. Well, to me, everyone, at least in major hockey league circles, were saying the Blues have to do something. They need to make a trade. They trade this guy, trade that guy. I mean, everybody's name was listed for trading, including Tereshchenko. And here comes the trade deadline, and Velzado for a 5th-round pick. He stood pat. He said, "This is what I give you. Make it work." And I give
Well,
them
it's a
credit
good
for that.
thing. It's a good thing a lot of the fans don't make those tough decisions, because the team would look a lot different and a lot worse than what it does now. And certainly, the GM has the responsibility to the fan base of signing and delivering players that are going to do the job over a long period of time. And you don't sign a guy to a contract and then all of a sudden turn around and say, okay, well, that was a mistake, we need to get rid of him. You need to give him a chance to work out a little bit, and thankfully, Armstrong has been about that.
Yeah, like I said, I for the most part think he's done a great job. And to not make a move that day was huge in my eyes. Was absolutely huge.
Probably would have been easy, although it's not really that easy in the salary cap era to make any kind of a deal. But it would have been a lot easier probably for him to say, well, we're going to get rid of some guys and start to rebuild this team. Because that's kind of what a lot of fans were looking at back around the first of the year.
Yeah. Well, so we're running short on time, and I want to just finish up with a couple things real quick. So
Okay.
I love your stories. I love your memories. Favorite player to watch or to talk to or to throw an announcement about during the playoffs. And I'm going to exclude current players, so that way, I'm talking past players only.
So you want my favorite playoff announcement player?
Yeah, the favorite player that in the playoffs that you just love watching that player in the playoffs, or you love, they were fun to announce, they were interactive with you, just somebody you were glad to see in the playoffs.
Oh boy, let's see. Let's see if the gray matter can come up with an answer to that one for you. Okay, I'm going to say number 44, who is now assistant general manager of the Florida Panthers, Chris Pronger. When he took his game to the next level in the playoffs, you just didn't want to be on the ice. If you were on the opposing team, you didn't want to be on the ice at the same time as Mr. Pronger. He, as you know, was famous for having a very active stick, and giving it to the guys on the other team. He's just the nicest guy in the world away from the hockey rink, as you probably know. But man, you talk about ferocity and a guy who competed at a very high level. That was Chris Pronger, and I don't know what his playoff statistics are, but it was really fun to watch him play playoff hockey. That's for sure. And he's the first one that comes to mind anyway when it comes to playoff hockey. So
yeah,
you remember he had that incident in Detroit where he got hit in the chest with a puck, and we were all worried about that situation. Everybody, oh man, his heart stopped, and what's going to happen here? Is he ever going to play again? Well, of course, he got up and went to the locker room and came back and I think finished the game a little while later. So that tells you the kind of compete level that the guy had, and hopefully we can get him back in our organization at some point, somewhere along the way. Wouldn't be surprised if that happened.
I know there's a fan push to retire his number. I do know that. I've heard that. But the one thing that I remember, Pavel Datsyuk, not too long ago, was someone was asking about who did you not want to face in the playoffs, and he had said that when he played the Blues, he got bigger skates so he could put more padding in the heel because of Pronger whacking his heel.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that for a second.
Right. Tom, I appreciate having you on. I'm not going to make a playoff prediction because I don't think that's fair to you, but I'm going to ask you to let me say again.
Thank you for that.
But I am going to ask you not who wins or loses, but what do you expect to see between these two teams? Being A, they haven't seen each other since December 7th. The last time they seen each other, the Blues won 1-0. Good hard-fought game. They haven't seen Bennington, and they've never played each other in the playoffs. And the Blues have never seen a whiteout.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting for all those reasons you mentioned. It's also going to be interesting to see if Patrick Laine can come back to the kind of form he had back in December. I remember that 5-goal game because I got to announce all 5 of those goals. Excuse me. And that's going to be a factor too, whether he's the Patrick Laine of old or the Patrick Laine of recent.
Yeah. Well,
but I'm anxious to see how that all plays out. I would think that the Blues are in pretty good shape based on the recent trends. You know, I think Winnipeg has struggled a little bit lately. Obviously, the Blues have been on a roll. So if the goaltending is what we expect it to be, I think the Blues go on around 2. I have no reason to think otherwise.
Yeah, I'm with you. In my other show, I did a prediction show with Mike Dante, one of my fans who co-hosts with me, and I had said Blues in 6, and I'm going to stick with that.
Okay.
So,
even if it's 7, I'm okay with that.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't want to have to go to a whiteout in Winnipeg for Game 7. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about,
the greatest thing, but the Blues have been such a great road team. I got a feeling that they'd be in good shape anyway.
So, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, and I think Tom knows, up in Winnipeg during the playoffs, they have this thing they call a whiteout. And everyone wears the old Jets white jerseys. The ones with the circle and the Jet word, not a picture of a jet.
Or something white if they don't have that.
Yeah, or that. And then everyone gets these white towels, and they'll wave them, and it looks like it's snowing in that arena. You don't see anything but white. And in fact, they do it enough that if the opposing team's fans are there, they're covered up. You know, any Blue fans that are there, you're going to have a hard time getting seen. And it's a great sight. I mean, I would love to see it in person. I would wear my white Blues jersey just to not be in too much trouble. But that's something that's one of my bucket list things.
I don't know what the exact capacity is of their arena there, but I know it's 3,000 or 4,000 less than the Blues, and I've been told it's like all of these people are right on top of you too when you're out on the ice playing a game. So it can be a pretty intimidating situation for an opposing player.
Almost like the old arena.
Yeah, right.
Well, Tom, again, I appreciate you coming on. If the Blues get through round 1, maybe we can come on again for round 2 and preview round 2.
I'm with you.
Well, Tom, thank you for coming on. Enjoy that pen. I hope you use it to write down a couple of goals during one of the games.
You bet.
And again, Hawaii Blues Fan Clan, I give you Tom Calhoun, our Blues legend.
Thank you, Guy. Good to be with you again.
Aloha.
Aloha, buddy.
I cannot thank Tom enough for coming on the BlueNote Fan Report. He is a big supporter of the show, and he's a big supporter of you, Blues fans. Just remember that. When you're at the arena during the playoffs and you get a chance and you're down there around the penalty box and you see him, just say, I'm bleeding blue with you, Tom. And he'll know. He'll know that you watch the BlueNote Fan Report. Just like I'll know you watch the BlueNote Fan Report. I am excited to see the whiteout. Less than 24 hours away, whiteout time in Winnipeg. This is the Hawaii Blues fan saying, aloha, mahalo. You gotta know that I am bleeding blue with you, and I'll see you for game number 2.
Butcher, you wanna go get it back?